Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you.
Did you practice that?
Yeah, it didn't sound great. Jim is 35, man. Happy
All
birthday.
right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You've been celebrating it for the better part of the last 7 days with Aaron.
It's not me, dude. It's 100% Aaron.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing.
When it's someone's birthday, she doesn't just celebrate on one day. It's like either an entire weekend or a full month. Like it's a lot. So
When's Aaron's birthday?
It
That's
is
a quiz.
Yeah, April 15th.
April 5th. Oh, tax day. Aaron is a tax baby.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to be able to replicate what she has done for your birthday?
I mean, I try. Even though she tells me, she's like, I don't want anything. I don't want anything for my birthday this year since we're getting married.
Oh, you should try doing that. Just don't even observe it. Don't even get her a card or even mention it and see what happens.
That's a great idea.
Because she said she doesn't want anything.
Right. I'm like, wait, what's today? Huh?
Let's get some happy birthday Jims in the chat. If you're watching this on replay, you can put it in the comments down below. This is the wrap-up show. There is some, it's kind of like non-news, but newsworthiness involving the Padres. The news is from Ken Rosenthal earlier today, and then there's more because Erik Greupner was on the radio today as well. But Ken Rosenthal today, this is the snippet that, to me, will get the publicity. He says the signing of a free agent such as Michael A. Taylor is possible. So is a trade with a team deep in outfielders like the Brewers, but neither option seems particularly likely, making it quite possible the Padres will spend the spring auditioning young players such as Jackson Merrill, Jacob Marcy, and Graham Pauley. So is a youth movement underway? And by the way, if Merrill is auditioning this spring, is he doing that in the outfield? Because we've talked about that before. He has not been an outfielder in his professional career by and large. So are the Padres going to go young? Are they done spending this offseason, even though they've barely spent, Jim?
Jackson Merrill, he has played a total of 5 career games.
Oh, 5? He's fine then. He's ready.
In the minor leagues in left field. Everything else has been at shortstop in the infield. He's played 45 innings total in left field in his entire career.
Not a lot.
This has a recipe to turn out really bad, and it has a recipe to turn out really good. I would say that I would put it more on the, if you're telling me how high is the risk here to potentially play one of your top prospects in a completely new, different position that he's never really played before on, starting out at the major league level, I would say the risk is pretty damn high, very high.
Mm-hmm.
We talked to Kyle Glazer a lot, and he knows more about the minor league system and minor league baseball than either of us, even though I heard a rumor you used to work in minor league baseball for 15 years. Is that true?
It's been a while, though.
Okay. But I still like what Kyle Glazer has to say. And when he's like, dude, look, if they plan to take this top prospect and any top prospect in baseball or any prospect at all in baseball, and they put him in a new position, it takes at least a year before you can even consider putting that player at the big league level. And if they're thinking about trotting him out there in spring training, I guarantee you we will see him in the outfield in spring training. Guarantee.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that makes sense in spring training. Don't you?
I think it does too. If the plan is to go and move positions with him because you have really nowhere in the infield to put him, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But what wouldn't make sense is if they trot him out there in spring training in the outfield, and then he's on the opening day roster as your starting left fielder. That to me doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's spot on. I mean, the idea that you have Jacob Marcy and Jackson Merrill and Graham Pauley in your system is encouraging and good. And if they're properly developed, they can all contribute. But if you're asking all of them to potentially contribute from day one or close to day one in 2024, it's going to be hard to be fully competitive. I mean, forget about the division. We don't need to even discuss that regardless of the moves they make. I mean, they could sign Jorge Soler. It doesn't mean they're going to go win the division, or they could even sign a Cody Bellinger, which isn't going to happen. But you get my point. But you got to put yourself in a position where you're capable of winning something like 80 something games. And also, you're not trying to set back players individually because you have needs and therefore you're plugging guys in before they are ready. So, to your point, I think if you had an infield hole for Jackson Merrill, you'd be more inclined to potentially give him an opportunity close to opening day, especially if he earns it this spring. But if you're going to put him primarily in the outfield, what's going to happen if these players struggle? What if Merrill and Marcy are on your opening day roster and they're not playing, or they're not hitting, or the team isn't winning? What are you going to do then? What if Merrill doesn't hit and it's been 3 weeks and the team isn't performing well? What are your options? You're going to keep plugging him in? You're going to keep putting him out there? You're going to send him back down? So I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And it seems like, Jim, I mean, this was kind of the worst fear, that you were going to shed payroll with Soto and other parts, the haters, the Snells, but you haven't filled it back you haven't backfilled with any of that payroll. They've literally used none of it. So we always knew they were going to shed payroll, but I didn't know they were shedding all of the payroll. Now, it's not definitive. Maybe guys don't earn jobs this spring and AJ Preller makes moves in February or March, but they've spent nothing, Jim. I mean, they've literally spent nothing. A couple of signings from overseas. Wandy Peralta is a very small deal. I mean, it's $4 million per year. Could they truly be done with free agency or trades at this point? I still think something has to come. I'd be shocked if nothing else is to come from here until opening day.
And every single deal that they've done, and by every deal, I mean only 3.
Right, there's so little.
The Peralta deal isn't really even official yet.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Okay.
It's not official yet.
Yeah.
But am I mistaken? Is the 3 deals they've done all have like early opt-outs?
That's a great question. Do they all have 1-year opt-outs? The Peralta deal reportedly does. What about Matsui and Go? Do they have 1-year opt-outs or 2-year opt-outs?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure at least one of the Go or Matsui has
1 year.
Has an opt-out.
One of them definitely has an opt-out. I don't recall it being an opt-out after 1 year, because remember we said we wouldn't want to see the Padres develop Matsui and then he leaves after a year. I want to say it's at least 2 years into the Matsui deal. Don't you remember that conversation?
Yeah, there was like an injury waive clause there or something.
Yeah.
And I remember even that deal, like it was announced that they signed Woo-Suk Go.
Yep.
And it took like a week and a half before it became official.
That's right.
Probably because, these deals are kind of complex because they have to make them complex, because to give a player this much money, they're not giving a lot of money out,
right,
but to be like, okay, we're giving a straight up 4-year, $16 million deal and have that.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
They're not doing that. They're giving themselves every option to get out of these deals as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But to not really spend any money this offseason to raise ticket prices to the level that they're at, to trade away your best player.
Yep.
I mean, look, it's not a great look. It really isn't. I don't care how good the minor league system is. You're still dealing with players that potentially could be in the big league roster playing positions they've never played before, right? If you told me that Jackson Merrill, if Jackson Merrill played his entire career in left field in the minors and he was their number 2 overall prospect, like he is right now behind Ethan Salas, then this would make sense. At least you could at least spin it, and not really even have to spin it, because all you have to do is say, look, he's our number 2 ranked prospect in our system. Okay.
And he spent 3 years in left, and we have a
3
need
years in left field, and
he's ready.
And he's ready to go. Then everything feels okay. This makes sense. As a fan, you're excited for it. You understand it. But the way that AJ Preller hoards shortstops, and you have this player who you're probably going to see this year at the big league level be a shortstop and play in a position he's never played before, because you have a need and you don't have money to spend, then the questions start to come up, like, what are we doing here?
I would think if nothing else, there'll be a stopgap like Profar, where you give them like $2.1 million. And even if it doesn't work, who cares? You buy yourself like 30 days or 60 days. He'll start the year playing left field, someone like that. I'm not guaranteeing it's Profar, but I think there'll at least be some low-level veteran outfielder on this roster. Here's the other note, by the way, from Ken Rosenthal. I mean, the other part of the lead here is what he wrote about Ha-Seong Kim. He says they continue to draw significant trade interest in Ha-Seong Kim. According to sources briefed on the discussions, Kim is eligible for free agency at the end of the year, but he was among the Padres' best players last year, so the acquisition cost would be high. And like we've been talking about before as well, it's like it's hard enough to sell this team without Soto. But again, they're selling tickets. I mean, Erik Greupner talked about it earlier today. They've had more season ticket sales than they've ever had in the history of the organization per Greupner. But if you move Kim as well, and you're not backfilling with free agents, and you're just lowering your salary from 250 to 150 overnight, I just don't. I don't know how you convey it. I mean, maybe people are incredibly loyal and they show up, and maybe you can still win. And I understand you have needs, so maybe you can address multiple needs with one player like Ha-Seong Kim. But I mean, they're still, possibly trading Ha-Seong Kim. I don't know if they're possibly trading him, but they're getting suitors on Ha-Seong Kim. It's just a very interesting offseason, a very quiet offseason, and honestly, a pretty disappointing offseason. Doesn't mean it'll be a disappointing season, but a disappointing offseason to this point with a lot of questions heading into pitchers and catchers reporting in 6 days. I mean, just a million questions.
Yeah. Questions that I don't even know if they'll be answered, really.
Neither do I.
And even if, I mean, look, like you said, we all agree there's going to be a physical body, actual
be a left
person
fielder.
in left field and center field this year. Like, they're not just going to say, you know what, we're not going to put anybody out there because we don't have anybody that we feel like could, fill that position up to our standard, right?
Mhm.
They're going to have somebody out there. It's about who they have out there. And if you trot out a couple rookies, or even if you just have an outfield of Jackson Merrill, Jose Zokar, and Fernando Tatis Jr., that's not good enough.
Mhm.
And that's going to draw a lot of questions and put a lot of pressure on Jackson Merrill. Could he overcome all of that? Could he go out there and play really good defense in left field and actually perform at the plate to a level where he's not, hitting 170, right? Like, what if he does at the plate hit 265 and give you
Right.
like 10 to 15 home runs and like 50, 60 RBIs, like have an OPS around, I don't know, 760? Like, could that all happen? Like, yeah, it could. Absolutely. And I think Padres fans would then be like, and we would be the same, like, wow, there's some promise here.
Mhm.
You see it. But give me the percentage chance of that happening.
Well, I think it's less likely with a position change because you got more on your plate. It's like trying to catch in the big leagues. Like the offense is secondary to catching, right? Because you have a pitching staff that you got to work with.
Mhm.
If you're switching positions, that's a comparable, analogy, because it's one thing to hit at the big league level. That's not going to be easy for anyone coming up. It's possible, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. But you're not just learning to hit the big league level. You're learning to play an entirely new position. So you're putting a lot on someone's plate, which is cause for concern potentially. That's the way I would look at it with someone like Jackson Merrill. It's not to discount Jackson Merrill. He might be a future 10-year starter for the Padres, a 5-time All-Star. That's all a possibility. But aren't you putting him in a precarious situation? Aren't you setting him up not for success by asking him to be up as a 21-year-old and learn a new position all at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. It's the Padres' MO, not setting up their minor league players for the best success possible. Some players have broken through that. I would say Fernando Tatis Jr., but even then, they've switched position. I mean, he's moved
Mhm.
positions, and thankfully, Fernando Tatis Jr. is such a freak athlete and such a good baseball player that he excelled beyond anybody's belief, and maybe to some people's belief, in right field, becoming a platinum glove a winner out there. But other than Fernando Tatis Jr., not uh, no position player has broken through this system and has excelled through, whether it be a position change or just putting them at that position that they've played their entire career in the minors. Nobody's excelled. And so if you're coming from a place of skepticism and I don't know if this is going to work, what else would give you any type of optimism that it will work, because it hasn't. So that's why, and when people push back against me of like, Jim, you need to be more positive about these things. I would be, except there's really like nothing to base this off of, like at all, for it actually working with this organization and AJ Preller. That's why until I see it happen with a guy that's not a generational talent like Fernando Tatis Jr., then it's going to be hard for me to be on that. Well, I think Jackson Merrill could do it. I got to see it.
I mean, I'll be the one to say it. The odds are extremely stacked against Jackson Merrill starting 2024 in the big leagues and having success regardless of position. He's been a nice hitter in the minor leagues. He has not exceeded expectations. He has not hit the cover off the baseball. He has not hit for power. He's 20. He's not 22 or 23 or 24. He had a 770 OPS last year playing at the lower levels of the minor leagues. He spent most of his time in single A. He spent about 40% of his time or 30% of his time in double A. And in double A, he had a 780 OPS and hit 5 home runs. And for the year, he had 15 home runs in over 100 games. I mean, it's fine, but he has to be fully developed still, right? Like, he hasn't had some breakout minor league year. He's been good enough, but he hasn't been great in the minor leagues. A guy with a 770 OPS between single A and double A is not primed to go tear the cover off the baseball in the big leagues. I mean, again, you're asking potentially to set someone back. And I'm with you. I mean, I hate to be the one to say it. And it's not to say he can't prove people wrong, including myself. He could catch lightning in a bottle and have an amazing rookie year in 2024 as a 21-year-old. It is possible. Or what's more likely, he would struggle if becoming a full-time player to start 2024. That's the most likely scenario for Jackson Merrill, because that's how this stuff works.
And exactly. It is. That's why, the success rate for players drafted and making it the big league level is extremely low.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there's a graph that we talked about. I think it was last year or something. It was like draft picks actually making it to the big league level with that team. And the Padres were up there, but as far as the success rate goes, it is extremely low.
Mm-hmm.
Position player wise, I would say the Padres are pretty close to the bottom as far as drafting a position player, not pitcher, because they've brought up pitchers in their bullpen that have actually performed really well. But position player wise, there's not much success that's going on at the major league level with the Padres organization. If these players are traded to other organizations and they succeed, I don't consider that to be a Padres success. Honestly, I don't.
You're right. Yeah, I get that.
So everybody wants to see these guys perform, because enough's enough with waves of minor league players coming through the system as top ranked guys, and the Padres, parading that, hey, we have 5 or 6 or whatever players in the top 100 prospects in baseball, and making graphics for it instead of caring about the major league club, to not have them pan out. It's frustrating, and maybe it will change with these players, because they're sure doing their best PR campaign to talk about these guys. Like, I mean, did anybody last year besides the guys at Mad Friars know about Jacob Marcy?
No, we didn't even start talking about Jacob Marcy until, at best, the Arizona Fall League, if not the last 6 weeks, when AJ Preller mentioned his name as a guy that can compete for a job.
Right. And if you did, that's great. But the main thing and the most important thing is the big league team, right? And so worrying about Jacob Marcy was not even close to our radar. But now he is, because they have no other option.
Yeah.
And I really don't think he should be a guy that, I mean, again, he's got what, less than 500 at bats, plate appearances in the minors, maybe. I mean,
Who, Marcy?
How many plate appearances does Marcy have in the minors?
Yeah, he only has 700. Now he's a college guy. By the way, if I was choosing between,
I was talking about last year, 400.
Yeah, I
less
mean,
than 500 last year.
But I would just say this: if I was choosing between Merrill or Marcy to put on my opening day roster in the outfield, this isn't about their futures. It's about right now. I'd put Marcy there. He's 2 years older, played college baseball, and has played in the outfield. So I'm asking less of him because, again, he's 2 years older. He played college baseball. He's an outfielder. Then I'm asking of Jackson Merrill, a high schooler from Maryland who's 20, who hasn't played any outfield. So that's what I would do, regardless of what they do this spring. I don't care if Merrill hits 300 and Marcy hits 250. Marcy's the guy that would have less on his plate. He knows how to play the outfield clearly and is about to be 23 years of age. Obviously, Graham Pauley's coming off a very nice minor league season. But to your point, Jim, all of these guys have limited double-A time. I don't think there's one of those three that have spent 50 games in double-A between Merrill, Pauley, and Marcy, unless I'm missing something. I don't think any of those guys have spent 50 games. You know what Marcy had? No, excuse me. I was going to say Pauley has, but no, he hasn't. So these guys are having success at the lower levels of the minor leagues, not in double-A or triple-A. They're not seasoned in double-A or triple-A. So
you know how big of a jump it is from low double-A to the big leagues?
When you don't have that much time under your belt? I mean, typically it's a jump. I mean, guys, again, there's guys that make jumps from double-A to the major leagues, but it's not every day. And the Padres aren't exactly the organization with the track record of having players do that, other than someone like Fernando Tatis Jr.
It just feels like the strategy for this year, John, is hope they're a little more lucky, right? We hope we're a little more lucky in one-run games.
Mm-hmm.
And we're counting on our stars to play at a very high level. I mean, it's not like the worst strategy in the world because you pay these guys a lot of money. You expect them to perform. You expect them to be all-stars. But we know that's not the case, and we know it's baseball, and we know that's not always going to happen. Like, of the superstars on this team, would you say that the odds of all of them performing and having career years is probably very low?
Yeah, very low. I would guess that one of them is capable of having a career type year, and I put my money on Fernando Tatis Jr. Far from a guarantee,
right?
But I mean, we had Dan Szymborski on last week, and he's like, the truth is, I mean, it's just how analytics work and the numbers. I mean, Machado's numbers aren't going to be getting better. It doesn't mean they're getting worse yet, but they're not going to be getting better on average. And then same thing with Bogaerts, because now he was banged up a little bit last year. So maybe he can bounce back to some extent. And I think that's definitely a possibility. But the idea that Bogaerts is going to have his best year in age 31, age 32 season is probably very unlikely.
Yeah, probably. Could he do it? Could he have an all-star year? Absolutely.
Yeah, he can be an all-star. Yeah.
He can be an all-star. I mean, these guys obviously have talent. There's the one, like, at their best, you could say that they're some of the best players in the game. And they've shown at times they've been the best player at their position potentially throughout their time in the big leagues. It could all happen. I just, there's I don't know what the exact saying is, but it's like you can't live off hopes and dreams. Something along those lines, where you feel like this season is based off of, hey, we hope these guys do well, because if they don't, we're fucked. And if they do,
like what's the other option?
Probably good.
It's true though. It's like what happens if? It's a good point. Like Machado isn't 100% from day one and not playing in the field, or someone. It's a good point. I mean, you're just asking everyone to be healthy and productive from day one. And even with that, you're relying on some younger pieces potentially, or non-proven pieces in left, center, first, back of your rotation.
Because ideally, what you'd want is a rounded out roster where you aren't putting this and this is what they had last year. They just didn't capitalize on it because they all sucked. Like at certain points in time in the season, and it didn't feel like the others picked up the guys that were struggling. When Manny was struggling, when Xander was struggling, it didn't feel like the other superstars were able to pick those guys up.
Right.
And that's how it needs to be in sports. You need to have, because not all the time, your superstars aren't always going to go 3 for 5 every night with the home run and 3 RBIs. They're going to have a lot of offers. It's going to happen. And so who else on this team is going to step up, and who else is going to, pick up the others when those guys aren't performing? And that's the problem.
That's a really good question.
If you're asking a guy like Jackson Merrill to do that, right? You got issues. I'm not saying it's all on Jackson Merrill. I understand that, but there will be times, I'm sure, where just say there's a runner on second, less than 2 outs. You have, I don't know, I don't know where he would be batting in the lineup, but I'm just saying, you have
seventh,
Xander
eighth.
Yeah, 7th, 8th. But say runner on second, no outs, and you got Manny, Bogarts, Campusano and Merrill or whatever. I'm just throwing some random whatever.
Right.
And Manny strikes out, Xander walks, Campusano flies out, right? Now it's on Jackson Merrill's hands. And then you're putting a lot of pressure on a young guy to come through in that position instead of a veteran that I don't know if they're going to be able to sign.
Yeah, I'm almost more concerned if it's Merrill batting with the runner at second, nobody out, because it's like, can these young players get guys over, which is something the entire team struggled with a year ago. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be, I think the most fascinating part of spring training is probably just the completion of the roster. It's not, hey, Manny health, is huge, and Darvish and Musgrove and all of it is huge, but like, what does even this opening day lineup look like? We have no idea. There are multiple positions. We have no idea what it's going to look like opening day, March 20th in Korea. All right, we're going to get back to the commentary in a moment. If you're here, please subscribe. We have year-round content for Padres fans. Whether you're here live or on replay, please subscribe. Smash the like button for us. You can follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. If you want to make sure we get your comment today, you can click the $sign below the chat box. We do appreciate your support with the super chats. And also, if you want to become a member, you can click join down below. We do need to thank our title sponsor here on the Wrap-Up Show since day one. We can't do it without Mark Nimitz. We can't do it without your support, all of our viewers. Mark is a great insurance agent. You can take that from us. I've got a homeowner's earthquake and life insurance policy with Mark. You can get to his website by clicking the link in the description down below. Whatever you need from an insurance perspective, Mark will take care of you. Again, you can take that from us. He's a great insurance agent with great service and communication. Whatever it is, home, life, auto, business, condo, renter's insurance, whatever you need, Mark's going to take care of you. He is a lifelong Padres fan. He is a native San Diegan. He is a huge supporter of our work, and he is a huge Padres fan. He lives and dies on this like everyone here in the chat does. So if you have any insurance need, if you want to save money, he could save you $750 or more by switching your insurance. Get in contact with Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance by clicking the link in the description down below. By the way, at his website, you can get a free quote online or call Mark, and he'll talk to you about the Padres. He'll give you free quotes as well.
Yeah, all of Mark's information is on the bottom ticker below. mnimitz at farmersagent.com is his email address. When you reach out to our buddy Mark, let him know that John and Jim from the Wrap-Up Show sent you.
The Athletic today saying that the Padres, Ethan Salas is the third ranked prospect in all of baseball. I think the Athletic had just 4 Padres actually in their top 100 list, but 2 of them are highly ranked in Jackson Merrill and Ethan Salas. We've talked a ton about prospects here today and over the course of the offseason because there's not much more to talk about because the Padres have not been tied to high-level free agents, whether it's a Blake Snell type or a Cody Bellinger type or even the next level down, the Jorge Solers or the Michael Lorenzens in the rotation. Not to say they couldn't sign someone of that caliber, the Lorenzens, or a trade for a Manoah. That sounds like it's out the window, and Toronto doesn't want to do that, by the way. But we've talked about the system because they don't appear to be heavily motivated to do anything via free agency. I think the Peralta thing was out of thin air a little bit, and maybe that gave some people belief that maybe they would trade some from within their bullpen because that is now a strength of theirs. But if they've got limited funds and they've used it so far on their bullpen, I don't know how much more money they have for the back of their rotation or for the outfield. So I'm not expecting much. I'm expecting something like a Profar or potentially some type of mid-level trade, not overly significant trade, and or reliance on their system to start 2024. That's my expectation. Nothing of great significance and or a heavy reliance on the system to start 2024.
Right. We all expect them, just because of how their roster looks, to make at least one more move.
Yeah, definitely.
You're looking at this roster and you're looking at the holes and you're thinking to yourself, okay, how could you honestly go into spring training with this? Like this is the final product with minor league players being brought up. Because if that's the case, then you're running a lot of risk here. But I really do think, John, the more you hear people talk, the more you hear from the organization about, just PRing their way to how great this minor league system is. not really answering the question about money at all, not, talking about, well, yeah, the reason why we traded Juan Soto was to sign, get money back, to get the money to spend, yet we haven't done that. No one's answering any of those questions. The closer we get to spring training, dude, the more I think that this is going to be it, with a low-level pickup piece, like you said, like a Jerkson Profar.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't even do Jerkson Profar. Maybe they're like, screw it. Why have Jerkson Profar blocking Jackson Merrill, and we could save an extra $3 million there, and we just put Jackson Merrill in the big leagues.
But for me, and you're right, that's the wrong way of thinking about it from the organization's perspective, and you agree. I would use a Profar type as a stopgap. So I'm not guaranteeing him the job for the year. If he hits the first 60 days, great. And maybe he's got the job for the year. If he struggles for the first 60 days, maybe you say, you know what? We've developed Jackson Merrill for the last 60 days in AAA or AA. He's been playing in left and having success. And now it's his turn because Profar hasn't earned it. And we're paying him $2 million. So who cares? We can cut bait, or he can be a fifth outfielder or whatever. But I would prefer going about it that way. It's not sexy, but the truth is Alex Smith started before Patrick Mahomes did when they drafted Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Because it took a year. Could Mahomes, that's a 1 in a million player. Could Mahomes have started from day one? Probably. And he's a 1 in a million type player, literally, or 1 in 10,000 type player. And they still wanted to give him the seasoning. So that's typical. Let the player develop. He's 20. He's not 24. So let the player develop. Find some type of stopgap. You're not guaranteeing Profar the job for the year or even 2 years, but give him the first month or two. And if he hits, great. And if he doesn't, come up with a solution at that point.
I'm on board with that. I think I'm definitely on board with that. I just, are they on board with that? Are the Padres and AJ Preller, are they thinking that way? Or are they thinking like they have previously, we want to get these guys to the big league level as fast as possible?
Right. That's what we're known for. We got to get guys up.
Yeah. It's, hey, we need to get this guy as fast as possible. He's one of our top prospects. Like, let's go. Well, it hasn't worked.
What was your takeaway here because I didn't hear it. I know we referenced it briefly, Greupner this morning on the radio. Was there a primary takeaway or takeaways from anything that he said or didn't say in his conversation? Again, we'll hear from Kutsenda at some point. I think maybe that's more telling. I'm not sure.
Actually, one of the takeaways was he mentioned that him and AJ Preller report directly to Erik Greupner.
Mm-hmm.
And
makes sense.
Erik Greupner being kind of literally this figure that we've not seen at all or heard from at all, like in the shadows, is by design. Like, those were his exact words, was the reason why you haven't seen much of Erik Greupner or whatever, just it's by design.
I've seen, right. By design is almost like it's like he's being hidden.
So I don't know what that, take it how you will, but those were the exact words, is the reason why Erik Greupner hasn't been, front facing almost. Peter Seidler was up front. You heard from Peter, like you could reach Peter, whatever, right? And he's mentioned that, it's by design that Erik is not like that.
So do you think that, because we had heard, I think from Dennis Lynn in a mailbag or an article, that Kutsenda was expected to address the media at some point at the start of spring training? Do you think that's potentially changed? Like, will we hear from him, or will he be completely behind the scenes?
I think we will hear from him, but I also do think, like, this is just speculation on why this is by design, that we're not hearing from Erik Greupner at all, or seeing Erik Greupner at all, or anything, right? No interviews, nothing, right? I do think that it's by design, because this is just speculation. He probably is not a baseball guy, and it's probably best if he didn't speak, because if he did, it would expose him, and the fan base would be like, what the hell? We just now, again, it's because of the passing of Peter. It was out of people's control. It was a tragic loss. Like, I'm not like it. That's what happened with Peter. But going from Peter, right, to Erik, how unfortunate it was. You're now going from a guy who loves baseball, love the Padres, love the fans, new baseball, to a guy that might be the complete opposite. And that's just speculation on my part. I
Yeah,
don't know
right.
that's the case.
He
I
might be a
don't know.
sabermetrics guy.
Yeah, he might
Or he
know
might not.
everything about baseball.
Yeah,
Like he
but
might
your
be a
point
huge Padre fan.
But your point's valid because, like, when you meet with the media, and this isn't the New York media, but you meet with the media and you could be asked like a myriad of questions, like,
Yeah.
"Hey, how does your prospect depth in the minors impact your plans in center field?" I mean, if you don't know, if you don't know baseball, now again, you can lean on AJ Preller. But listen, I'm controlling the purse strings, and it's my first year in this job, and some of those particulars are better for AJ than they are for me. I think you can dodge it to some extent, but yeah, it can be exposing. I mean, if he's not a baseball guy, and Peter clearly tried to be, I mean, he would, lean on AJ clearly. I mean, AJ was in
Oh,
charge of
yeah.
baseball decisions, but Peter was a passionate baseball fan. That may or may not be the case with Erik Greupner. I mean, nobody knows if Erik Greupner, and to your point, maybe he is, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's not a passionate baseball fan for life that envisioned himself at any point in this role. And how does that impact things? I don't know. I want to hear from him. I want to see him. I think fans do as well because they want to be rest assured. I think everyone wants to know this. Is my organization, if you're a Padres fan, is my organization heading in the right direction? Are the people in charge of it, are they going to be stewards of putting us in a position where we can win, both now and in the future? That's why you want to hear from an owner, because an owner sets the direction for an organization. An owner doesn't determine who should start the year in AA, but an owner sets the trajectory for a club. So that's what we're waiting for. What's the trajectory, Erik? What's the plan?
And I think, what fans don't want is an owner who only cares about crunching the numbers.
Right.
They don't want a guy who is making moves based on how much could we save,
Mm-hmm.
or is this financially work for us?
Right.
They don't want that, especially off of what this team and fan base had with Peter, rest his soul. Like
Mm-hmm.
you go from that to a guy whose only real like number one priority is to crunch the numbers and make sure that the team's in the green. Fans aren't going to like that because of what they had before, even though that didn't translate to winning at all. I'm not saying that being a numbers guy isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you are raising the ticket prices to the level they are, when you are making things harder to obtain, when you keep losing, and to scale back as much as they're scaling back with money, if that is the main priority of this franchise is to get out of the red and get back into the green.
I think it's red and black.
Red and black. Is that what it is?
Black Friday is when you start making money. So black is positive, red is negative.
Okay. Anyway, you get my point.
Yeah, I do.
Then you're looking at a situation where fans like, what the hell?
All right, we're going to continue the conversation in a moment. We do want to remind our viewers about our partners over at Aura. Their co-founder, Will, is a San Diego and a huge Padres fan. This is a great company with offices right here in Liberty Station in San Diego. Everyone is looking to get healthier with the new year here, the 2024 baseball season around the corner. They have plant-based nutritional products. All of them are plant-based. It's an amazing company. I've taken their probiotic for years now, every single day. It helps with digestion and heart health and mental health. You should take a probiotic. You should take it from Aura. It's as good as I've ever had. In addition to that, they have pre-workout supplements. They have proteins for after workouts. They have omega-3 oils. They're not technically fish oils because, again, everything is plant-based. They're supplements. But if you're taking a fish oil, take the omega-3 oil from Aura and get the same health benefits. In addition to that, they have sleep pills, immunity pills, and much, much more. Check them out at ora.organic. Everyone wants to get healthier. Find the product that is right for you and your loved ones. ora.organic, or click the link in the description down below. Again, if you support this channel, if you support our work, please support our partners, including our friends over at Aura, ora.organic.
Yeah, all of their supplements are the healthiest on the market. If you want to live a healthy lifestyle, go to Aura, www.ora.organic. If you want to look for pre-workouts, they have it. If you want to look for post-workout protein powder, they have it. just plain old vitamins to take every day to feel healthier and be healthier. They have it. So go to www.ora.organic now, pick up some supplements and try it out, and you'll thank us later.
You'll be thanking us later. Okay, so the Padres literally report this week. The pitchers and catchers will report on Super Bowl Sunday. First full squad workout will be next week. And then they'll be playing spring training games, I think, Jim, February 22nd is maybe when they open against the Dodgers.
Yeah, versus the Dodgers, yeah.
So that's in 2 weeks, 17 days. They'll be playing spring training games, and we are less than 2 months. I mean, well less than 2 months away from their opener, which is March 20th. And again, they've got the fewest players on their 40-man roster in the sport with 36. Fewest players on a 40-man roster at the outfield position, 2 of any team in the sport as well. A lot of holes, rotation, outfield, arguably, I mean, certainly bench. And that's where they are. And it's far from over the offseason. I mean, you could argue it's far from over. They can make moves during spring training once games begin. But man, you're just left kind of scratching your head is what you're left at this point in the offseason. I never thought we'd get here with such limited movement. I never thought we'd get this late with such limited movement.
Yeah. And you don't like to hear just the PR campaign coming out from this organization about this year. Because to kind of, I'm not saying to forget about things that have happened, but to just sweep under the rug how bad this offseason has been from a player standpoint. We all, Peter's in a different category, right? But from just a roster standpoint alone, it's been one of the worst off seasons you could remember. You lose your manager. I like Mike Schilt. I think he'll be good. But still, how you lost your manager to your rival in your division was a disaster. Trading away Juan Soto. I mean, look, I'm not going to say it's a disaster, but we'll see. Not good. Sure. It's not great. And then losing your Cy Young Award winner, losing the best closer in baseball, not making any moves to help this roster out. I mean, they're a worse roster than they were last year. That's a fact. Could they play better? Yeah, but on paper, it's a fact. They're a worse roster. And then to just trot out the PR campaign of, well, look at our minor league system again. I mean, it's the same story over and over with this franchise, and you hope that it turns around because, frankly, I think people are sick and tired of the constant revolving, PR campaign of, well, look at our prospects. They're great. No. Can you guys win on the field? Can you guys, be consistent? Can you guys not suck?
Well, can you get your prospects to the big league level in a Padres uniform and help your team win? Because I've seen Padres prospect rankings over the last decade where they've been inside the top 5 routinely, including to their credit. Here's the two sides of the coin. To the front office's credit, they have a good system. Again, somehow, post-Soto trade, they have a good system. That's a positive. Not to their credit, to their discredit, is they have never fully turned over a class of prospects to impact them at the big league level. They did it with a player. Fernando Tatis Jr. was a brilliantly developed player. That's hard to argue. Now, he hasn't fully reached his potential, but he's had massive moments already in the big leagues. But beyond that, we were sold on Chris Paddock. It turned out to be absolutely nothing. We've been sold on some of the starting pitchers they brought up. They've been traded away. We've been sold on a myriad, I've used that word a lot, of players over the last 10 years that weren't capable of producing for the Padres at the big league level. That's not to say Marcy, Merrill, Paulie, Snelling, Lesko, and others, Salas, aren't going to be long-term Padres that help this team win. I hope they are, but you can't sit here today and be guaranteed that this team is going to develop them properly and they're going to stick at the big league level and they're going to be the core that leads the Padres into the second half of the 2020s. We can hope that happens. It's possible. But A.J. Preller's track record is not a good one to lead you down the path, Jim, where 5, 6, 7 players in his organization will stick, be successful, and lead the team to winning over the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, I know I said that they're banking on this year, the hope of all of their superstars performing. But for the immediate future of this franchise, the only way this works out is if their prospects hit. Only way. That's the only way. Their superstars can perform, but at the same, you need to have those prospects to hit at the major league level. If you do not, it will turn out horrible for you. And by you, I mean AJ Preller. It just won't work. Like there's no scenario where, because they're not going to build these super teams by spending $250 million anymore. There's not doing it. So if they can't do that, they're not going to do that. They have to have the other option, which a lot of teams and most every team goes by, except for the few like the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, right? Like you have, even the Yankees have to have prospects. I mean, every team has to have a prospect or two or three hit really big, because if you don't, you're not going to win. And you're not going to be consistent.
We've been saying it for years. I mean, I was highly skeptical of the manner in which they were going about it when I'm like, you can't have free agent starters in your rotation entirely. Now, they traded for starters, but guys are making $20 million a year. You can't have 5 starters making $20 million a year. You have to have someone from your system that's controllable for 6 years, making $1 million as one of your starters. Same thing. You can't just have free agent outfielders and free agent. It just doesn't work like this. You have to be able to have some guys under control for 6 years. The Luis Campisanos, some of your pitching talent in your organization, some of your outfield talent in your organization. The issue is you can't have them all come up together in all likelihood because they're not ready. This isn't a system filled with talent that has already been developed at the high levels of the minor leagues. It's a system filled with prospects that have had success at the lower level of the minor leagues. A lot of people would tell you, we've talked to so many, it's a year away from blossoming, if not more. But that 1 year is a big year. You're talking about 20-year-olds. So the difference in 1 year for a 20-year-old is everything in the world. So again, I think some of these players are going to bear dividends in 2024, but you have to be careful how you rely on them in 2024. That's my primary takeaway right now. Things could change. Guys could hit in spring training, but even if they hit in spring training, that doesn't change my overall opinion on what they're going to be asked to do during the regular season. Someone in the system, Jim, is going to have an amazing spring. I hope multiple guys do. Guys could have amazing springs, but I've seen guys have amazing springs. That doesn't automatically equate to having an amazing year.
Exactly. And you're going to see it. I would bet a lot of money that this spring you're going to have some guys have really good springs, probably. It's a different animal when you go from spring training to an everyday grind of the big leagues. It just is. And especially with guys that are perceived as a year away or maybe more, and guys that may be moving positions, it is a tough ask to have them do that and expect them to perform. Because if there was no expectations on this team, John, like zero, I think we'd be feeling a lot differently.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, give me the example of the organization right now.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, if it was Pittsburgh, I don't know.
I would be like, give them a chance. Let's see what they got.
Yeah, Colorado is the perfect example. Arizona heading into last year.
Yeah, but they also had their guy.
Well, they were 2 years ago. Arizona.
Corbin Carroll was like one of the guys that was, all right, this guy's ready to go. He's ready to burst on the scene. And he did, and it did in a big way. That's not how I feel about Jackson Merrill. I don't feel like he's ready to burst on the scene. I feel like he could be able, in maybe in due time, to be that player to burst on the scene. But as of right now, with especially potentially moving positions for him, it's a little like, I don't know, maybe we should wait a little bit longer on this guy. So you're going to need, the expectation for this team this year is definitely win. And with those expectations of winning, it makes it harder when you're going to be relying on potentially so many young rookies.
All right, real quick before we get out of here, starting left fielder and center fielder on opening day for the Padres are, you can put it in the chat or the comment down below if you're watching on replay. Starting left fielder and center fielder for the Padres opening day. I'll start. Profar and left, Marcy in center. It's complete. Who knows? I mean, it could be anything. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go Profar in left. I'll go Jose Azocar in center.
Yeah, that's the odds-on favorites right now. Those are your odds-on favorites.
And they haven't signed Profar yet, so we don't even know.
I know. Okay, guys, Underdog Fantasy, the big game is here. It's a big week for someone like Jim because he's a big Niners fan. The big game is here. Underdog Fantasy is here for you. If you use promo code PODSWRAP, you can get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Play the pick'em games. It could not be easier or more fun. You can win up to not just 20 times your money. There's actually a way to win 100 times your money in one single night. Double your first deposit up to $100. UnderdogFantasy.com or the Underdog Fantasy app. Use promo code PODSWRAP. Big game is here. Baseball's around the corner. PADSWRAP. Double your first deposit up to $100. Pick 'em, contesting, drafts, big game, baseball, all right here. UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, join us on the radio this afternoon. Much more on the Padres' quiet offseason and the potential reliance on a youth movement in 2024. We'll be on San Diego Sports 760, the free iHeartRadio app. We're celebrating Jim's 35th birthday today as well. You can find us on YouTube. Search for John and Jim 760. If you're new here, we have year-round content, in season, out of season for Padres fans. Please subscribe. Please smash the like button. Thank you for your support. Follow us on Twitter at John Schaefer, at Jim Russell SD. Again, please support our partners, Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance. If you have an insurance need, get in contact with Mark. Aura, if you're looking to get healthier, ora.organic. And again, PODSWRAP, PADSWRAP. Get a 100% deposit match up to $100 for the big game. We'll see you on the radio today at 3 p.m. For birthday boy Jim, I'm John. This has been the Wrap-Up Show. Bye-bye.